Hi, I'm Sandra Ingerman, and welcome to the Shamans Cave.
And I'm Renee Baribeau, and I'm excited to be here. And it's a beautiful hot day over here in Palm Desert. I think it's about 100 already.
Oh my God.
I know. And I have to wear a sweater because, in the house you're air conditioned. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Warming up everywhere, and we're warming up on every level, I think.
but you're in a down jacket over there, I think. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, I'm in a down a vest.
It was like in the 40s. It was snowing in Maine this past weekend. It's so I mean I think that we're at a kind of crazy time this year. But Sandra got inspired today. Had a great topic for us to talk about.
Yeah, well, just even how Renee and I started talking is part of the of what I want to bring up today. Um, I'm finding because I'm teaching a lot and I have a lot of correspondence that comes to me. People find me one way or another out there. And I find that I get an amazing number of requests, whether it's through the mail, email, or on Facebook, saying what I should do a session on in my courses and what Renee and I should be talking about on the Shaman's Cave, um, because people are very aware that the virus that is worldwide and has is bringing us to our knees and into an initiation of our entire collective, not just individual initiations, but our entire collective is going through initiation. Will never be the same again, ever, never be the same again. And so what starts happening is I think that we start to get into our ego, and as a lot of people keep writing to me on Facebook, am I overthinking this? Am I overthinking this? And every time somebody says to me, am I overthinking it? It's yes.
If you have to ask, you're overthinking it.
And one of the reasons is because our ego is really what we don't need telling us what to do right now. Because it's the ego that gets afraid. It's the ego that's afraid of death. It's an ego that's afraid of the end. The ego is afraid of being out of control. And so if you're listening to the ego, you're in trouble right now. I mean, I and I can tell, and I've been there with all of you. I've had to use every tool in the book occasionally at night when my ego just starts, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be up all night long in the darkest place unless I use the tools that I know how to do. And so, what I was telling Renee this morning was, um, I wrote a book back right after soul retrieval. And while I was writing soul retrieval, which was my very first book, I already saw that a second book had to be written because what I realized while I was writing soul retrieval was that a large part of the spiritual community has done an amazing amount of emotional work, whether they've been in therapy, whether they've found other ways to really go in and really work through how we blame, the shame that we feel, all those shadow states that come up. And then what happens is at some point, if you don't realize that you work them through and it's now time to slide and flow into another part of the river of life, they're like a noose around your neck that never, ever, ever lets you move forward. And there were three reasons I wrote Welcome Home, and I'm only going to say one here. And the dream that I had was, what kind of future are you creating if you're stuck back in the woundedness of your past? And so I'm seeing a real division right now between people who are really needing to do a lot of emotional work because they haven't. And that's important. You have to, your shell has to be cracked to get through the initiation. It does. And it's not pleasant. And we're experiencing that now. But then there's those of us who we've worked it through so much, we're actually creating a spiritual virus by not going on to fresh air. You know, we're staying in the old stale air and it's making us sick. And so, what I was saying to Renee is it's time for all of us to drop in and see where we are in our process if we want to do more work with higher frequencies and light and work on different interdimensional levels, or if we still have a lot of personality work to do. And that you need to go inside and listen for yourself on that.
Yeah, and what I was responding to was this morning I'm just about over Facebook. I'm on Facebook and I express my view, which I think my view is basically that there's a lot of views. There isn't one view. There's not one way of looking at any particular situation. And then somebody calls me out and says, "Well, you must be a blank supporter." And I don't even want to go which supporting I'm supporting, because I think that's the same thing, is like deciding we've made politics about everything. And it's not. It's not how I'm living my life. It's not how I talked to the neighbor yesterday. It's not, it's not how I could be with other people. It's not how I show up for work. I show up as a healed human being most of the time. I have my moments who wants to reflect that, especially working in an addiction treatment center. I want to reflect back that healing is possible, that I'm no longer balled up in a dark corner somewhere, looking for the next fix, or that I need something to make me okay. And so I think that we've forgotten and think there's nothing like, what do they say, test out your spiritual conditioning, spend a week at home with your family in lockdown, which I haven't really had to do so much, although my sister, who's in a different part of the country, has been calling me often. And the other day, I'm in a bad mood. Okay, I'll call you back tomorrow. And and that's it. There's a bad mood day, and we have the tools to, like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to take a wind walk. I'm going to, I did a breathing meditation last week. I had a massage last week, in my home, safe, whatever, however, what I feel comfortable with. And then I can get back to zero. Mm-hmm. There's a still point that's zero that then allows you to go. But and I don't think Sandra or I are saying that if you're still stuck in some fear and some anger and some old resentments, that's not an all right place for you. But in the wind work, it teaches me that the resistance is always the place to look. The resistance is always where the wind can get in and move something so you can. We didn't come in this world to be miserable, unhappy, broken, unlovable. We learn those behaviors.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really brilliant. And it's really important to understand, too, we're such unique individuals. And so we are in different places. And it's more about the point that I'm trying to make is listening to yourself. And I think I've actually shared this story on the Shamans Cave, but really, really long time ago. I was teaching a soul retrieval training in New York. And the group was working on each other, and I was observing, and when they were talking to each other, I was going around and seeing how things were going. And I went up to a pair, and in the pair, one of the women was crying hysterically, and she couldn't stop crying, and she couldn't speak. And I just kept on saying to her, is there anything you can say to me that will help me understand what just happened to you so I can help you, because she was just sobbing. And finally, after probably a half an hour of sobbing, she said to me that her practitioner who brought her back her soul part, after she blew in her soul part, said to her that welcome home and that soul retrieval is the first part of the work. And so now your true work begins. And she said, I've been in psychotherapy for 20 years on this one issue. And to hear somebody say to me that it is first now time for me to begin to work on this issue, she just had a complete meltdown. And so we are all in different places. And where that practitioner got confused was I have a teaching that's for some people, soul retrieval is the first part of the work because you get your soul back. And then you realize all the emotional issues that you've been too dissociated to deal with throughout your entire life. And that now it's time for you to really do some deep therapy work. And then for some people, they've done deep therapy work, but they were missing the spiritual part of the healing because we separate physical, emotional, and mental spiritual healing in this culture, and they go together. And so for some people, they did the work, they did the therapeutic work, they climbed mountains, but they never got that spiritual work. And so it's like we're all on different tracks of what needs to be looked at, and when do we start to see that behind all the suffering there's also a lot of beauty and a lot of joy, and there's both on this planet. And it's very difficult for all of us. We come in these wide-eyed little children, just ready to sing and dance our whole life away. And then here we are, and we're in a realm that has a lot of suffering to it. But there's also a lot of joy here. And if the teaching that I've been sharing forever is true, and it is true because nature, what we feed grows. What we feed grows. And so what would happen if a big part of the spiritual community, and people are actually doing it, take ownership of all the personal work that they've done on themselves and start to turn their attention into seeing the beauty behind the suffering, seeing the joy and the light behind the darkness, would things start to change on our planet in a different way? Because there are millions of people who are doing their spiritual work, feeding the light and feeding the joy, but what all we're hearing about is the shadow.
That's true. I remember when I said a few stupid things or not aligned things when I was first learning my shamanic healing too. Like one time I blew away the smoke and I saw something, and it wasn't necessarily mine to tell that person at the time. So don't always believe everything the shaman says. That first thing. But, it's funny that this was the topic you wanted to talk about because I sent out a newsletter and it got more responses almost instantaneously on Saturday than more about, well, do you really believe this is true? And sending me links and stuff like that. And I think all I said was that We are nature. We're not, and I'm not preaching to the choir here, we're not separate from nature. So, in essence, what I've been saying every week is we are the virus. We are part of the virus experience. And so, how do you hold yourself in, as hopefully trained practitioners, we hold ourselves in a esteemed light, not a separate light that we're different or separate from, but that we are the light showers, we are the way showers. And if we get caught up in our own minutia and want to go back and dredge it up some more, in both Sandra and I mean, I've had numb fingers for weeks. I wanted to have these virtual dance parties, but being that this virus wanted to slow us down, I got a pinched nerve. I got slowed down. I heard a story yesterday about where somebody was going to do something every day and she tripped and, broke her hip. So no matter what we were doing, we were supposed to slow down, and that's it. But what do we create from this? Like I always say that to heal, you have to stop. Because think about it, you're driving down the highway going 80, and then, you're going to get off at the off-ramp to make a different turn. You don't go off at 80 or you'll be over on the side of the, embankment. You have to slow down. So for me, all healing happens when we slow down enough, and even to assess that, wow, I've done a lot of healing. When you stop, if you look around, you've got the food to cook, or you've got the things to make, or you've got the smudge, the sage to smudge. You have the tools. But if you don't stop and think about really my inner knowing, what do I really know to be true, then what am I moving forward out into the world?
Right, exactly. And I taught a nature course through the Shift Network, and I've talked about it before. And I've been teaching for 40 years, but this one course that I taught, I teach what I need to learn. I will always be clear about that. I am literally a person who has all of your issues. I am one of the most neurotic people I have ever met, ever. I am my toughest client. I have written 12 books just talking to me, not to you, just talking to me. Thank you for buying them. I write my newsletter every month.
Oh my God,
just talking to Sandra. I'm only talking to me. And I love that other people read it, but I'm only talking to you. I teach it online, but I can only see me. So I'm always talking to me and trying to calm myself down and give myself a little to work with. And I have just confessed something that only my best friends know.
Don't worry, we'll keep it a secret.
Yeah, right. All over YouTube.
Don't worry, only about 20,000 people a week see this, so you're good. There's still millions out there who will never know.
She only talks to herself. But it's really important that we do find ways to talk to ourselves and to tune into ourselves and to see where we're out of balance and how we bring balance. And so before I went off on my whole tirade,
Laugh again.
I was talking about the nature course. And the nature course ended up healing me in ways that I never imagined, because what started to happen to me and a lot of the group who was in that course, I was thrilled to see that the rest of the group was having the same healing as me, was some of the illusion of suffering. Now, this is not a spiritual bypass. I can hear those of you who are going, they just don't want to deal with reality. So, going away.
Who would? Wait, let's get real. Who wants to deal with this reality? Come on, everyone. I mean, seriously.
Really, so we lifted the veil behind the suffering of what we're seeing now. And a lot of us, there were 1,000 of us in this course, and a huge part of us actually stepped through to a whole nother dimension right behind this dimension that's filled with so much joy, so much beauty, and a real place where we were able to communicate with different nature beings and learn about their history and their story and what their life was like, and tell them about what our life was like. And all of a sudden we had a different community than just people fighting and blaming each other. And I feel terribly ashamed at what has happened to animals and nature beings on this planet. But we were all able to, even the nature beings, they came up to us and wanted to understand us better and show us kindness and compassion. And that's a world that I want to move towards. And in order to do that, we do need to fill with some beauty besides just the suffering. And how I do that, and it's really working for me well, is when I get into these states that Renee and I are talking about. I visualize, and I'm not a visualizer, but I do it in the best way I can. And I feel flowers in my body, and I feel my favorite foods and ice cream floating everywhere, gorgeous colors, and beautiful sounds, and the fragrances of roses. And my God, I feel like I'm going to just pass out every time I smell a rose. It's so beautiful. And I have that smell just permeating through every cell of my body. And then when I open up my eyes, I can't see the stuff that Renee and I are talking about right now. I can't see it because I'm seeing beauty instead of the darkness. And it's been a tool that's really helped me during this time when my mind gets really lost in fear.
One of the things that's been working for me is that I believe that place you crossed over into, I believe that there's children being born now who are coming from there to show us the way. And a woman that I worked with has one of those children. And he was born premature, and by all other standards, he's not meeting the growth things. But you look at this young boy and another friend with the same kind of thing. They're not quite the right, all of the right things. But there's this new breed of children that you look at them and they light you up from the inside. So the other day I was having a really hard day, and she sent me a picture of him, and I'd show it, but it's not mine to show. But he just makes me smile when I see this little boy. And so, so for those of you who aren't couldn't get the roses, think of your favorite sunset, or the child that that's from that new dimensional space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have some choices where we want to put our energy right now.
Were you going to do an exercise?
Yeah, and
Okay.
it really is about it really is about not doing a spiritual bypass. I don't want anybody saying that right now people are blaming everybody for everything. So I want to be careful with my words. I am.
Yeah. There's no spiritual bypass.
Yeah.
The only thing is there are some tools, and that might, Sandra, 40 years I've been doing it almost this long, and so all what we've hoped to do really, or what I hope to do, is show you that you might not have to take 30 or 40 years to do it. That if you listen to some of what we say, maybe we'll shave off a couple years for you.
Yeah. So, so as Renee and I have been talking the last few weeks, we've been talking about how our body knows and how our soul knows the next phase. And we've done a couple of shows on that. And so there's no place to go. There's not a lot of instruction in this journey because it's talking to your soul. And we've gone, this is a long show. And so what I'd like to do is do a short drumming that just starts to show you where you want to continue your work after the show is over, either today or through the week. But this is just going to plant the seed of what do you need to focus on. So I'd like you, while I'm drumming, I'll do a little bit of whistling, and just to kind of get us focused. And the question you're asking your soul, where is your soul? It's right inside of you. It's speaking to you every minute of your life. Try to listen. Try to quiet your mind to listen. The drum will help you do that. That's why people listen to the drum, because it quiets the mind. And so listen to your soul and ask, is there an issue that is not worked through that you really need to focus on right now? Just don't get a whole thing of, I need to do more Tai Chi. What's the issue? I still need to work on shame. Still need to work on blame. I still need to work on an old trauma. What's the issue? Or it's time for me, I have been spending too much time on my issues and not looking at the beauty of life. It's time for me to start exploring tools like working with nature and developing relationships with nature beings that will bring more beauty into my life. So is there an issue where that shell has to be cracked so that rock, you as a rock that's being tumbled during this storm, is getting smoother and brighter and lighter? And is there an issue that still needs to be cracked away from you? Or is it a time for you to move towards beauty and joy and honoring life? Okay, we're all honoring life, but you know what I mean. Here we go. This is the first thing that comes to your mind. A quick, intuitive hit. Don't overthink. Feel where the energy is moving you. Back to an issue, forward into the future.
That was great.
Yeah, so as I shared, that was literally just to get a quick intuitive hit, not to get a whole thing on what do I do with it, but just what direction do you need to be? Is there an issue that's really holding you back? Or, and is it an or and an and? Because you can work on an issue and still see beauty at the same time. But what part of your path are you feeding? Basically, just what part of your path are you feeding? Are you feeding moving forward? Or do you need to stop? Like Renee was saying, we all need to stop before we can move forward and reflect. And this is a great time for reflection. So,
Absolutely. I was shown that I, whenever I get out of the present moment, I start to think that I'm not being totally cared for. And if I just stay in the present moment, I'll see that I have everything I need right now. And so I'm like, okay. And then I got happy again. But can I go down a week or so? Because in a week, I'm going to be teaching a free online class, just because I think it would be really helpful for people to empower our way through the present and into the future with wind knots. And wind knots come from the 1300s, the 1500s, probably before the lap. Oh, actually, last week somebody sent me a picture of the Virgin Wind Mother, and it's a temple in Peru, and the Virgin Mother is actually making wind knots.
wow.
And yeah, I didn't send that to you. I'll have to send it to you. So I'm going to teach people how to tie magic into knots, and then maybe let you know when you should release them so that you can empower, with spirit wherever that you're going. So you can go over. I'll put it on shamanstv.com, or you can go over to thepracticalshaman.com and sign up and register for free, and learn how to empower your present.
And when are you doing this, Renee?
Saturday, May 23rd.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think I would like to learn about them maps.
oh,
So
they're just so much fun.
yeah.
I have lots of stories to share about when you untie them too, and what can happen. So, and when you hold on to them too long, they'll untie themselves. So it's a great thing. Do you have anything coming? You're sitting for a moment in the middle of your
Yeah,
class.
yeah, no, I am, and I'm saying this just so that it will inspire you to do more work in your community. I'm doing a course for the Shift Network right now, where we're doing some of the medicine for the earth and healing with spiritual light work. And we are doing what I'm talking about. We're not focusing on the virus, we're focusing on supporting our circle and the world. We're doing constant transfiguration together, um, around radiating light to each other and out into the world. We're working on how do we use our words, our thoughts, our daydreams to create a good world? Um, how do we walk with beauty in our eyes instead of so much suffering in our eyes? I have people who are doctors in some of the hard hit hospitals in the course, and nurses. And so it's a really empowering circle. And we're not talking about the division, the blame, uh, any of the shadow. We're talking about the light, the love, nature, and and those beings who are healthcare practitioners are in such gratitude because this is giving them hope for life again. So
That's awesome.
I feel really good about the work we're doing, and I just really want to encourage people to bring out lifting people up right now. That's huge healing work and a big way to get out of the shadow too.
I think we can do a lot from the light in the moment, and I so applaud the work you do, and thank you for those laughs today. I hope everyone else at home got a good laugh too, because we're laughing at ourselves.
Great.
And you know, we're keep subscribing over at YouTube. Our subscribers grow by about 100 a week, and you know, follow us over at the Shamans Cave on Facebook and Shamans TV. You can sign up. Our mailing list continues to grow as well, and stay tuned with us, because we really are way showers, and we're here because we want to show you the way through from the lightness of our own laughter and being.
Thank you, Renee, and thank you, everybody, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. Every single thing, every single change that you're making in your life right now is affecting all of life at the same time, so thank you.